Welcome to Peter and Ruffy's Football Show here on STV. The main headlines on tonight's programme. Suleiman Koulibaly signs for Egyptian side Al Ahly from Kilmarnock. Could Ryan Christie be on the move north to Aberdeen? And Ziggy Gordon looks all set to leave Partick Thistle for Poland. Just a few of the talking points on tonight's programme. Alan Ruff is alongside me, Peter Martin. I'm absolutely delighted that our boot room guest is St Johnstone winger Chris Millar, who will join us on the programme to give us his thoughts, of course, on the Saints' chances of stopping Celtic's unbelievable run. Can they go 26 games undefeated and equal Jock Stein's Celtic side of 50 years ago, who also were on that amazing run? We'll talk about that a little later on before we get to St Johnstone against Celtic. Ruffy, great to have Chris alongside you. Obviously, from your own point of view, you've been guilty in previous years of doing things that you were embarrassed about, that you regret. I think over the course of time, I think you'll admit that the rapping song was a complete mistake. Would you accept that?
Yeah, I think afterwards, I think it was, obviously it was something I'd taken on that was just too big for me. I can't sing for a start, but I mean to dress up as a rapper and go through the whole rigmarole, it was a bit embarrassing after time, but it was for a good cause. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, this next piece of music is for no cause other than maybe promoting St Johnstone against Hamilton. I'm not quite sure why he agreed to do it, but this is Chris and giving it great gusto for everybody who wants to paint it blue at St Johnstone.
Yo, listen up, here's the story about a little guy that lives in a blue world. And all day and all night and everything he sees is just blue. Like him, inside and outside. Blue his house with a blue little window and a blue Corvette. And everything is blue for him and himself and everybody around. Cause he ain't got nobody to listen. I'm blue, Aberdeen, 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 Aberdeen.
Ruffy, what about that?
I think it's far. First of all, he can sing, and secondly, he didn't have to dress up. So, I mean, that is a bonus. I think that's catchy. I think it's great.
It's definitely catchy.
I think the fans will buy into that, no problem.
Oh, definitely. I mean, if I don't see you in The Voice soon, that's just magnificent. Fair play to St Johnstone. Good promo.
It's obviously got a lot of airtime. My phone's been going non-stop. Ross Cunningham, the media guy, came up with the idea. Obviously, at first I was like, no, I don't want to touch this. And he kind of guilt-tripped us into it. He says, all the kids have done their bits to film that you've got to do it. And I went along and done it, and obviously I've been getting absolute pelters from
absolutely, and rightly so, by the way. I mean, it's just unbelievable. But a fair bit of good lip syncing there. I feel that we could be on that show very, very shortly indeed. Anyway, St Johnstone, that's promoting the game against Hamilton, which hopefully a good crowd will turn up. It's good, gets the kids involved, but you've got the small matter of a game tomorrow where I don't think you guys will consider yourself the sideshow, but everybody's talking about what Celtic can achieve if they avoid defeat tomorrow night, Chris.
Oh, rightly so. I think what Brendan Rodgers has done this year with Celtic has been an unbelievable transformation. Obviously for the team last year, we are now going for that record, 26 wins, and you look at the good teams over the years with Celtic who haven't even achieved that, and to be mentioned along the likes of the Lisbon Lions, it just shows you how great a job they're doing. So we're under no illusions how difficult it will be to go there and get a good result.
How good are they? Because over the 9 years you've been playing in Scottish football with St Johnstone predominantly, you've played against them on more than a few occasions.
Mm-hmm. No, they're excellent. I think something that I find most impressive, it's not only what they do with the ball. Obviously they've got the great attacking options, but it's off the ball. As soon as they lose it, they're 3, 4, 5 players around the ball trying to win it back and playing at a high tempo, and it's really difficult. But on the other side of that, if you can get a few passes in, I think you can get at their back line, and obviously that's something we've been trying to work on over the past few days at training.
Yeah, with comparisons to previous sides, I mean, what do they have that maybe others didn't?
I think pace. I think they've got real pace in their team in the wide areas, and obviously Dembele up front, and if sometimes if you get a chance you're on the attack, quickly it can change and go that way, and they're through and go. And I think that's something you don't want to go there and sit in, and because it will be a matter of time for they break you down. So you've got to try and find that balance between not being overcautious, but at the same time trying to be on the front foot.
Yeah. Do you think they're, is it fair to compare them with O'Neill's side, or is it a Strachan side, or are they at Neil Lennon's Celtic side? What's your take on it, Ruffy?
It's a difficult one, I thought these two sides that you mentioned had big players, obviously Sutton, Hartson, Lennon, Larson. I don't think this particular team had players of that quality. All credit to them, that to go on that kind of run is superb. It doesn't matter what players you've got. So as a team effort, I think that's what they've done particularly well, not with the individuals that they used to have.
Yeah, of course, when you talk about the records, it will equal Jock Stein's side. I think it was Jock Stein's team played 26, won 23, and draws 3, lost none, goals 91 and against 26. But for Brendan Rodgers' side, it's played 25 at the moment, won 24, only one draw, and that was against, of course, Inverness, Caledonian Thistle. Comparing it with the Lisbon Lions, Brendan Rodgers clearly delighted with the comparisons.
Well, to be talked in even the same breath as those guys that really created the legend of this club, would obviously be a huge privilege. Haven't really thought on it, to be honest. Just really try to look to win our games, irrespective of what the consequence of that means. But of course, anywhere where you mentioned in that same breath as those guys, then of course it gives a great privilege. But we have a lot of hard work to do, and St Johnstone will be a tough test for us. They notoriously they've done very well with Tommy. And in particular, away from home, they've done very well. So we know it'll be a good test of our qualities. But certainly, again, another game that we're looking forward to.
Okay, what makes you believe that St Johnstone could be the team to stop that run?
I think any game you get into, you've got to get into with confidence and look to get a positive result. Obviously we know it's going to be very difficult. But I think we've had some good results against Celtic over the past few years. Even the game at McDermott Park earlier in the season, it was 3-2 at one point. Obviously, the rugby scoring and made it 4-2. But we know we can get goals against them, but it'll be very difficult. But I think any game you get, you've got to give me a self-belief, and we'll go there with that. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, you managed to defeat Celtic, albeit under Ronnie Dyler, 1-0. I think Danny Swanson's goal will be forever remembered by Danny Swanson and all.
It was a great goal, a great strike. I remember it well, and we'd played really well in that game. And it was just a corner that came out to my edge of the box, and he caught it with the side of his foot right in the top corner, and it's games like that you always remember. It's a big result win at Celtic Park.
Okay, St Johnstone against Celtic at Celtic Park tomorrow night. There's a Scottish Cup replay to talk about as well. Ruffy, we're going to speak about the Jambos against Wraith Rovers. This one, Ian Cathro says he regrets mentioning the fact that he wasn't happy with the rescheduled date because his officials had agreed with Wraith that it was going to be on the Wednesday.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. Sometimes the manager and the people above, don't have any lack of communication. And it was after the game. Obviously, he's been asked a question, and obviously somebody hasn't told him that had been agreed. So it's unfortunate for him. And these wee things are beginning to get thrown at him, basically because he's not winning games. So the sooner he starts going on a run, people might start getting behind him.
Yeah, and with that in mind, Chris, I think he's a young man that just needs to be given time. I think he's got the right board in place that will give him that time. If there's anything that you don't learn on a laptop and in a manual, it's pressure, criticism, and when it comes from all sides, that's something that you can't read about. That practical experience is where he's learning right now.
Yeah, as you say there, you learn hands-on, and I think his run of games coming up as well is going to be difficult as well. I was looking at, I think he's got Hearts, obviously Hearts, I think he's got Celtic, like a few of the top teams, so it's going to be difficult for him, but I think there's been criticism aimed at him, and I think it's unfair. He's a young guy, he's he's done it the hard way, he's worked his way up, so he deserves his chance, and time will tell whether it'll be a good appointment, but he's got a good squad of players there, and Hearts are in a very good position right now.
Yeah, but big time for him, got to get past Wraith and then the pressure of Hibs in the Cup.
Yeah, I was surprised, obviously we were in the studio and Saturday, I was surprised that he threw his 5 new signings into the team right away, so they'll be hoping that they can click.
Yep, okay. We will discuss Wraith Rovers, and we'll hear from Gary Locke after the break. We're also going to hear from Ross County boss Jim McIntyre, because as ever, the Dingwall side never short of making more than a few signings when it comes to the January transfer window. That's all to come after the break. Welcome back to Peter and Ruffy's football show. Just in the break there, Ruffy and myself just practising some songs in case there's a follow-up single from Chris and the St Johnstone boys. You just never know, they won't forget their pals when they decide to record something. If you can get the rap gear out, Ruffy, again, that would be absolutely sensational.
No, I'm happy with my 2 appearances on Top of the Pops.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you're aware of that, by the way. World Cup song, Chris. He was there.
Go on the Google when I get home.
Yeah, absolutely. You should. You'll spot Ruffy and a number of them 3 sheets to the wind while they were recording it.
Still got that same haircut.
He's still got the same one. Oh no, you
had
did.
a hat on, I had a deerstalker tartan hat on.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. No tartan stuff on.
What year was that? Was that 82?
Yeah, I think it was 82.
Yeah, We Have a Dream.
It was We Have a Dream, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to watch it. It's well worth watching to see the entire Scotland squad plastered. Anyway, apart from that...
Yeah, keep your eyes on John Robertson.
Absolutely. To be fair, if you can play like John Robertson of Nottingham Forest, you can do whatever you want. I wish we had him now. Okay, from Hearts and their predicament, trying to overcome Wraith Rovers in the Cup replay. Of course, Wraith Rovers boss Gary Locke knows that everybody's talking about Hearts taking on the Hibs in the next round, and he has to somehow engineer a cup shock.
Results gave the boys a boost. You know, the confidence was a wee bit low after the wee run of results that we've had, but you know, the performance and result was reasonably good at the weekend, and you know, we've got a tough one tomorrow. You know, Tynecastle will be a different game altogether, but we're looking forward to it. You know, all the pressure's on Hearts, you know, especially with the way that the draw's been made. You know, everyone's saying that they're looking forward to an Edinburgh derby, but we're hoping that we can very much cause an upset tomorrow, and we'll go there with, you know, a lot of belief after the way we played against them in the first leg. But you know, equally we know how difficult it's going to be.
Okay, he's got a difficult job. Can he pull it off with what you witnessed in that initial tie?
Yeah, I think they'll be encouraged by the second half performance, but I think Hearts at home are a different kettle. You know, I would like to think the Hearts players have got their sleeves rolled up. You know, they're beginning to come under a bit of criticism that hadn't been there for a long, long time. So I think Hearts have got everything to play for, and I think they'll just be too good to them on the night.
Yeah, is that a different kettle of fish or just a different kettle?
I'm a kettle of fish.
Yeah, okay.
You can use whatever phrase you want.
I know sometimes you just drop bits of it just if it doesn't suit you. Well, listen, I think... you know, if Ian Cathro says it's a must-win game, I just anything less than that, I think, and suddenly it really will intensify. He's talking about pressure of trying to just get himself bedded in. You know, if Wraith Rovers were to cause a shock, I think it would be a shock at Tynecastle.
It would be, and as you say, it would definitely build pressure. I don't think the results have been as good as he would have wanted to be, and obviously with the incentive of playing their biggest rivals in the next round, I don't think the players will need any motivation into that game. Every player wants to go on a cup run, and obviously playing Hibs in the next round is just adds to that.
Yeah, okay. Give us your overall prediction on this one.
I think it'll be a tight game, but I think I can see Hearts with just that wee bit more quality winning the game.
Hearts for me 3-1.
Okay, yeah, it's kind of punditry we love in here. He's giving you the score as well, 3-1 to Hearts. You maybe take a leaf out of his book, Chris, once you move into journalism. It's all there. Let's look at some of the other news, which is dominating. Sulaiman Koulibaly. This is a guy that Kilmarnock managed to get for free, and suddenly anything from £800,000 to £1 million being quoted as the fee that Al Ahly in Egypt have signed him for. I think it's great business, 2.5-year deal.
It's absolutely massive business, particularly for a club like Kilmarnock. I'm sure Everybody behind the scenes will be happy with that. I think the manager himself will be looking for some of it, as every manager does. Whether he sees it or not is another matter. But I would love to know, you know, how agents send the videos of the players out there. I wonder what goals they sent out that he scored this year. It just be 4 goals. It'd probably last a minute long just to sell them.
to be fair, Ruffy, Chris, he only has to say on send 1 goal. I mean, he scored 11, which was a good return for Kilmarnock. But the goal at Celtic Park, for me, if anybody beats that as goal of the season this season, I'll be gobsmacked.
It was an unbelievable strike, and he's obviously got that in the locker. He scored some overhead kicks, bicycle kicks as well. His YouTube club must look unbelievable, and you know, playing against him, I think he's still got a lot to work on his game. But he's got that killer instinct, those goals, you know. And I think Kilmarnock, I think it's good for both. Kilmarnock get £1 million for a player they got for nothing, and he gets to move on and obviously earn a good wage in Egypt. Yeah,
it's not as if he's. I mean, I'd love to be a fly in the wall, Ruffy, when Lee Clark asks, am I getting any of the million? He's only brought in 17, 18 players. I mean, it's not as if they haven't backed him.
No, I think the board have. They've backed him in everything he's done. You know, that was another lot from, I think it was Newcastle. Another 3 or 4 for there. So you know, he can't have any complaints with the board. They're doing everything they can to help him.
Yep, at the top half, I don't think you have to worry about any kind of a relegation battle, Chris, for St Johnstone. But as far as the bottom end, a number of clubs always like to try and strengthen, bring in players to make sure they're not involved in it. It'll be interesting to see what Kilmarnock do before the window closes. But over and above that, one other team that always seems to enter into the transfer market, Ross County. And if they're not entering into the transfer market, they're trying to secure some of the players on extended deals, Ruffy. Yet again, I can't see Ross County being involved now with the calibre of player they brought in.
No, again, we keep talking about the board backing the manager, and certainly Ross County comes into that category. Their owner has backed them every year. Doesn't matter what manager's been there. He's acted very swiftly when he thought things were getting near a crucial stage, and again he's done it, you know. And I'm sure Jim McIntyre and Wee Doddsy will be happy with everything that the ammunition that they're giving them to stay possibly middle of the table.
You'll know players better than most when you're chatting to them about potential moves. Do you get the feeling that Ross County have to push the board out financially that wee bit more to try and you know, influence people to go up and stay up there? Not that it's a bad place, it's just that there's a sense of it's out of the way.
I think so, and the recruitment has been excellent. Jim O'Brien came in there as well, and he's a very good player, played in England for a long spell there. And I think they do. I think, as you touched on it there, Roy McGregor backs his manager, gives him the funds, and I think they've got maybe 23, 24 in a first team squad now. And if you look through it, there's real strength and depth there. But obviously to entice players up there, because it's up in the Highlands, I think they pushed the wage a wee bit more. And you know, from experience and speaking to a few players, there was interest in a couple of players who decided to go to County, and they could just give them a wee bit more on their wage than what we could offer, and that sways players, obviously.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, Andrew Davis is one of those players who could have been heading back down south. He could settle up at Dingwall because of family reasons, but somehow Jim McIntyre worked tirelessly to make sure that it was all going to get sorted out. He's delighted that he's signed a 2-year extension.
I think it's very important. I think since Andrews came to the club, you know, he's been a consistent performer and he's led the team really well. Obviously, there was some family issues in the summer which were well documented, but that's all sorted now, and we're delighted that Andrews agreed a new 2-year extension.
There's one other little bit of business that I was looking at with great interest today in some of the back pages about Ryan Christie and a possible loan to Aberdeen. I can understand, I mean, I know he wanted, and he has mentioned over the last couple of weeks that he wanted to stay and fight and try and establish himself in the Celtic side, but I think the other key area is you've got to play football. You don't want to be kicking your heels for an entire season.
Well, again, it's the player's got to make that decision. He would also maybe be saying, well, if I stay at Celtic, you know, the league could be won, you know, pretty soon, you know, and then the manager might give me an extended run. He'll have to have that dialogue with the manager, and he'll know where he stands, and then he's got to make a decision. But you're right, he needs to be playing football.
Yeah, and they might also be looking to add one more player before the window closes.
Yes, I think the supporters at Celtic and Rangers expect players coming in. That's what keeps the chat in the pubs and the chat about the place and in the dressing room as well. If a new player walks in to the dressing room, it's always a bit of banter as well.
Okay, Queen's Park, Ayr United, guys, going to get your prediction on that one, the replay tonight?
I think it's going to go all the way. I think it'll go to penalties.
I fancy Ayr United. Talking to my friend Gary Harkins, he fancies his chances, so I'm going to go with his prediction and go with Ayr United.
Okay, I'm not going to go with anybody because I know both managers, and one of them plays five-a-sides against me, is likely to kick me up and down the park, and it's not Gus McPherson. Last point on the Scotland thing, we missed it on last night's programme, Ruffy. A game against Canada 4 days before the game against Slovenia, just to give everybody that chance to get into the zone for the crucial game.
Yeah, I think it's a strange one for me. Obviously, just wants to get the players to be together more. If the Canada game wasn't there, they would probably meet a week later. So I think that gives them a fortnight with the players, which will be good.
Okay, that's just about it from us. Thank you very much to Chris Millar for joining us. Of course, tomorrow he will be painting Glasgow blue if they manage to stop Celtic in their run to become a team that equals the unbeaten run of Jock Stein's Celtic. Can he do it? Only time will tell. Thanks to Chris from Ruffy and myself. Good night.